It is summertime and 104 heat index today, hot as can be. You ever wonder how your quail do in the heat and what you need to do to make sure that they're comfortable? That's what we're going to discuss in today's video. Hey guys, welcome back to another Slightly Rednecked video. Again, my name is Chris. If you're not familiar with this channel, I help you to produce your own meat, eggs, and vegetables from your backyard, your balcony, your deck, your garage, or heck, even a spare room in your house if that's the way you want to do it. And today we're talking about how your quail deal with the heat. These birds are pretty tough and pretty resilient. They can deal with just all kinds of temperature extremes, but just like most animals, they actually do better in the cool and the winter time than they do in the heat of summer. When it gets up over about 90 degrees, the quail start to struggle a little bit. You're going to start noticing they're going to start panting a little bit. They kind of open their mouth and kind of breathe real fast like that. So that's, I'm not seeing that behavior out of them right now. It's not that hot over here yet, but it is something that is tough on them. So what can you do about it? First of all, they're going to be just fine. They can handle it okay, but you do need to take some steps to try to make sure that they're comfortable. Always make sure, of course, that they have fresh, cool, clean water, that it's not, don't put your water bucket sitting in the sunshine where it heats up. Let your water hoses run through the sun because that's going to heat the water up. It's going to be uncomfortable for them to drink. They need cool water. So keep your watering system in the shade. That's the first thing. The second thing is make sure you the first thing probably is make sure you keep the birds in the shade. And you may notice that, we're right here in the trees. I don't know if you can see this, but I got trees hanging over the top of the quail hutch. I'll back up and get a wide shot of this real quick and show you guys what I mean by this. But try to provide some kind of shade over your hutches other than just the roof on the hutch itself. Shade over the hutches themselves will help keep it much, much cooler. It's 104 heat index out here today. In the sunshine, when I step over there, it's hot as can be. But over here in the shaded area under this tree canopy, it's not so bad. It's probably a good 5-10 degrees cooler. And there's a little bit of a breeze moving through, a little bit of airflow. That's the next thing. Make sure they have plenty of ventilation. That's one of the reasons I really like the wire cages. I do give them this solid area to get into. And if I open this up real quick, you can probably see there's a couple of birds that are just hanging out in here. They're okay to do that. But I do want to give them a spot where they can get out in the open, get out in the breeze, and get some good airflow. You need the airflow. You need the ventilation for them. All right, let me back this camera up. We'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so I backed up quite a bit here. Maybe you can see this. There's my quail hutches way back there in the corner, and I've got all this tree cover right here that just provides them with a lot of shade, and that shades them pretty much all day long. Now they do get a little bit of full sun whenever the sun starts to go down. It goes down back behind us. So as it starts to go down in the side late evening, they'll get a little bit of full sun on the hutches themselves, but it's just a little bit for just a short while, probably half an hour or so before the sun starts to drop down behind the tree cover over that direction, and then they're in the shade again. So really, just having that shade there provides them with quite a bit of a temperature break. They're never in really direct sun, the midday hot sun blazing down on them, and that really helps quite a bit. If you don't have that kind of tree cover, depending on where you live, like in my hemisphere, I'm in North America, southwest Missouri, the sun is in the southern sky. So if I look for a section on the north side of my house, and let me turn you around, I'll show you my rabbit hutch. Okay, you can see there's my rabbit hutch right there. It's on the north side of the house, so it never gets full sun. The house provides the shade for the rabbit hutch, and that keeps it quite a bit cooler. All right, some of the other things you can do to kind of help keep your quail a little bit comfortable. If you live in a dry climate, I don't. The humidity here is like 75% most of the time, so it doesn't work for me. But if you live in a very dry climate, you can use like swamp coolers misters. You don't want to mist directly on the quail. You want to mist kind of the surrounding area, like the hutch ceiling, around this area. And what happens is that will evaporate, and that will provide a temperature drop. It can drop it as much as 10 degrees. So those can work pretty well if you're in a dry climate. I don't really find that that's necessary. Our hot temperatures here typically are around 100 degrees. We'll stay there for a pretty long time, 103, 104 maybe, but that's about as hot as it gets. And the quail do just fine in that. You will notice some panting, but as long as you got them in the shade, as long as you got them plenty of water, they always have access to water, then they seem to do just fine. They cope with it okay. You can see them struggle a little bit when it gets that hot. They start panting and things, but for the most part, they're doing fine. No problems whatsoever. Those are the important things: shade and clean water all the time. If you can do those two things, you're probably going to be just fine with your quail. You can put fans on them, but again, not fans directly on the birds. You want the fan blowing over the hutch, moving air over the hutch, not blowing directly on the birds. They really need to have a break from that. Other than that, I don't know that there's a whole lot more else to talk about on this. They're not as bad as the rabbits. The rabbits struggle a little bit more in the heat, of course, but your birds still do as well, so don't forget about them. Make sure, again, give them some shade. Give them some place where they can get out of the sun, and their water is not in the sun either, and it stays cool. And your birds are going to do just fine. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully answered a few questions, and as always, God bless.